By the time it made it to the ditches, it was black. And we knew it was black because standing in the ditch, putting in the drain culverts, building the facilities, our legs were getting dyed, okay? Getting dyed dark brown, black.
Whoa.
And so started Blackwater immediately after getting out of the Navy. And again, I knew nothing of business, government contracting, or land development. But you find a way to figure it out. And hired my SEAL team training officer and the guy that used to run facilities for SEAL Team 6, like the guy that built and fabricated. And they laid out the original footprint for Blackwater and did a lot of it ourselves.
Hey guys, if you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It's a huge, huge help. Thank you.
What year is this in again?
This is 97.
97.
Yeah.
So just a question for context here. What in your, I guess, like 5 or 6 years where you were in the Navy SEALs and deployed to places, like what types of things did you see that made you scratch this itch?
We were part of the Haiti invasion. Oh. So swam ashore in Haiti in, when was that, 94?
What happened with that again?
That was the Clinton administration got involved and they deposed Duvalier to install Aristide, also not a great option. And that started the devolution of Haiti.
Oh.
So, but I remember swimming ashore in Cap Haitian, which is a city on the north side, and there's about 2.5 million people then, and they had no sewage treatment. And so we got more shots than you can imagine, vaccinations.
Yeah.
And we'd planned for high casualty figures, not from enemy fire, but because of the water. And normally when you do amphibious reconnaissance, you want to be nice and low in the water and, sneaky. Oh, no. Extra flotation. You don't want the water splashing in your mouth. But it was not, because of the Nicaragua stuff and because of other I'd been to other garden spots before, so it was interesting, but not kind of a non-event. And then went back to Gitmo to have to wash all the vehicles, everything off, so that they didn't carry any weird agricultural diseases back to America. And then as an unusual experience as an officer, I got to go to sniper school as a SEAL.
Oh, wow.
Which was, in hindsight, great investment for the Navy because that definitely put the itch of me shooting long guns in place. And so then I made a later deployment on a carrier to the Med and the Middle East. So we did stuff in Saudi and Kuwait and Bahrain. And that was when the U.S. was bombing the Serbs as part of the whole Yugoslav Civil War.
Yep.
So it was interesting. But then, Dad dies right before that deployment, and wife gets cancer at 29.
Yep.
I get out, and I really wanted to stay connected to the SEAL teams because I liked it. I was okay at it. And
you wanted to use Blackwater to solve some deficiency
No.
issues.
I wanted to stay in the SEAL teams. Between disease and family death, I needed to get out. And so Blackwater really, I laid out the business plan before even knowing my wife had cancer about the need for a private training facility. In fact, I still have the letter. Because the SEAL teams had used private facilities since the 70s. We have a gun culture in America, and there's lots of great shooting instructors, race gun shooters, whatever. And they've been teaching soft units since then, but no one had done it on an industrial scale that was close to any concentration of military. And so a lot of guys had the idea, but let's just say because of my dad's success, it made it possible for me to do that. Because in the 90s, there was a major military base or training range being closed on a monthly basis because it was all post-Cold War drawdown, right? The peace dividend.
Yeah.
So this idea of building a private military training facility to serve the military was every smart investment official said that's a dumb rich boy's idea. So
growing the shrub of the bureaucracy, if you will.
They could not see, they did not have the experience that I had of using private facilities versus government ones.
Right.
And so yeah, it was a like Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. And found the original land, which is as flat as this table. The original 3,000 acres. And I contracted for 3,015 and ended up picking up an extra 85 acres as we changed the even the registration, because that land was originally surveyed by George Washington.
Are we talking in North Carolina?
Yeah, it's in North Carolina. It's in the Great Dismal Swamp.
What a name. Great Dismal Swamp.
And it is dismal. And it is and we called it Blackwater because when the rain would come through the very organic peat soil, by the time it made it to the ditches, it was black. And we knew it was black because standing in the ditch, putting in the drain culverts, building the facilities, our legs were getting dyed. Okay, getting dyed dark brown, black.
Whoa!
And I had to buy an office trailer. I remember paying $400 for that office trailer, and it was $1,000 to have it delivered, and it was such bad shape. It was safer to do that, have somebody deliver it, than the risk of rolling that thing on the road. But over pizza and beer at the end of the day, the logo was designed because the power poles, because we had to put about 5 miles of power lines in, and when we put the power poles in, within days, the bears were coming and ripping their mark. And the bigger the bear, the higher up on the pole they would rip, and it was literally marking their turf. So we had to give some kind of credence to that. And one of the original name ideas was the Tidewater Institute of Tactical Shooting, but we thought the acronym would be a little too spicy.
Yeah.
So
Blackwater is hard. That's a hard name.
Yeah. And there's a Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge not that far away, so it was not. We can't even say it was super original. But the logo came from those the bear paws, and yeah, it was that was pizza and beer design, not a high dollar marketing firm. But what a great experience starting a team from scratch and figuring it out, and it was one of the best experiences of my life.
How long did it take to develop all that land? And keep that mic pointed to you, if you don't mind. Thanks.
I laid it out the last month, so I was still on active duty. I kind of figured out the location of the land. There wasn't many big chunks of low value land that was available, and I needed a lot of land so you could catch stray bullets. You putting up ranges, and we shot a lot. Right at peak volume, we were doing like 1.2, 1.3 million rounds a month.
A month.
Oh yeah.
That was even more than I thought.
Magnificent stuff.
Yeah.
But the experiences of getting stuck beyond your wildest belief, having heavy equipment bogged in peat, to having to make war on the beavers, because it became a 7,000 acre compound, again as flat as this table, and the beavers would jam up all our drainage. So they would literally keep it a swamp. So we'd have to trap them. So that harkened back to my childhood skills, because I ran a trap line when I was 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, growing up, before school in Michigan, trapping muskrats and raccoons. So I pivoted to the beavers, and we won. But what a great experience to give people with a lifetime of experience in training special operations or building facilities. Our first shoot house was built by effectively the maintenance crew from SEAL Team 6's compound.
Oh, wow.
And they came out on weekends, paid in cash, and built one of the largest shoot houses on the East Coast. It's still standing, still working. And so, yeah, it's for those of you who are young and you see an arbitrage, you see this is what's needed, this is the skill set we can apply. take the risk, man. Figure it out and find a way to win. And you will look back on it with, even if you try and burn in, you'll learn and have a hell of an education for having done so.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about finding the problem and solving it to make it really simple. I mean, that's what it is.
And surround yourself, go back to the well of the people you know and trust to do that. And I had kind of a great bench to draw from. I had fucking high time SEALs that understood that, and they also would. I mean, that's the other thing. They would, when you have high energy people, high competition, high drive motor, they will. Everything's a competition.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even at the SEAL teams, on Fridays it'd usually be a long run or a long swim or something. But it was so effing competitive that we'd all pile on a school bus and it would drive us out somewhere to drop off. They'd be opening that door while the bus was slowing down. Okay? Not waiting until it stopped and get off in an early manner start. Oh no, fuck no. It was bail out, explode, and it's a race. It's on. It's always on. And building that culture as, from the first 6 employees of Blackwater, and not all my hires were right. I will also admit that, because I did what normal corporate America told me to do. I went to a headhunting firm.
Oh no.
To find a guy that, because I said, look, we have to understand this is a military training facility. We teach law enforcement. We're a facility to do that. We also want the hospitality piece. And this high dollar headhunter found this guy who was resume perfect. Former Marine, Lieutenant Colonel, logistics officer, who was a specialty in fixing troubled Holiday Inn franchises. You'd think perfect.
Yeah.
Not perfect.
Personality clash kind of thing?
He just focused more on hospitality than on helping operators be operators and honing that steel. And so, when you make a mistake in the wrong tactic or the wrong business plan or the wrong people, you know when you've made the wrong decision. And a lot of people will blanch from cutting away a bad parachute, cut away and cut deeper than you think you need to. And so I did. And, the guy who ground away and truly earned the right to be president of Blackwater was a guy named Gary Jackson, who I originally met while doing an investigation for a young SEAL that had gotten into a fight versus 4 Navy airmen, and he'd bitten the ear off of one of them. So it was 4-on-1.
Tyson.
He won. Yeah. But in that process, I met Gary Jackson, and Gary was an early computer geek. He built our website while he was deployed in the Caribbean hunting narcos, and never went to college, but he had a lifetime of experience and education and insatiable curiosity and a leadership style that even in a whole bunch of alpha male type people, he was comfortable to find the very best people in each lane and to give them an intent-based leadership. We want to do this, not I expect you to do this by doing 10 steps that I prescribed for you, right? How were the Germans so effective in at the end of World War I with fighting the trench warfare? They would give mission tactics. Say, we want you to achieve this. Find a way to make it work. They're
given autonomy essentially.
Exactly. How did the Blitzkrieg work so well?
Yeah.
It was that. It was intent-based leadership. And Gary built. I'm the investor and the original vision guy behind Blackwater, but Gary made the whole thing run, and he built a hell of a team.
When did you hire him? Because you started in '97.
Gary came on to do sales in '98, and he was, I'd say, president by '99. And then the business really started to accelerate by 2001, before 9/11.
Oh, before 9/11.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because our first big volume customer was the Navy that came to us after the Cole, USS Cole, a Navy destroyer, got blown up in Yemen. And the sailors that were guarding the ship were holding pretty much unloaded weapons that they never fired before.
Yeah, we had Mike Ritlin in here. He was one of them guarding that. Yeah.
So the Navy, having lost nearly lost a multi-billion-dollar warship and worse, 17 sailors, they came and said, we want you to do show us and help us do a nationwide sailor armed security, shipboard security, visit board search and seizure training program. And we did that. And I think we trained almost 100,000 sailors safely.
100,000.
Yeah. Basically anybody that carried a gun in the Navy was coming through our pipeline.
How many employees do you have by this time, approximately?
For that, we ramped up to a couple hundred, probably, between instructors and all the rest.
That's a lot of people to train still. Crazy.
And then, so we had that flywheel spinning when 9/11 happens. And then...
where were you on 9/11?
I brought my kids to school that morning in McLean, Virginia. And I'd heard about the first crash of a light aircraft into a building in New York. And then I went to the same place I always got my hair cut, to Ali, my Turkish Muslim barber, who oddly enough had a razor at my neck as we're watching the second aircraft crash into the towers. And he's been a great friend ever since, and we joke about that. But it was really sobering. And then, my wife, who was fighting cancer then, her cancer doc and her treatment was at St. Vincent's in New York. And so she was supposed to be there on like September 13, which was obviously canceled and delayed. We go up a week later. But I went to Ground Zero and used my ID and, at least had to walk around while she was hooked up getting chemo. But it was a very sobering moment to see that level of destruction.
Outside of the odd coincidence with your barber and what was going on that day culturally, once the second plane did hit, obviously, like a lot of people, civilians even, were thinking.
When I saw the first impact, there was no chance that was no chance that was an accident.
So you knew before that. You're like, okay, something's happening here. Did you have any... Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.